Are you scrambling, trying to get ready for your fantasy football draft this year? Don't worry, I got you. Welcome in, everybody. Another episode of the Seth Floyd Show. We're going to do something a little different. I haven't done any fantasy football on the show, on the channel yet, but I'm an avid fantasy football guy. I've been playing since high school. Man, that was a while ago. 2010 is when I graduated, so good golly, Miss Molly, it's been a long time. We don't got to talk about that. That'll send me into a full-on depression, and you guys don't want that.
Great story. Compelling and rich.
Let's just talk some fantasy football. I'm a big fan. I love it. Actually, if you're like me, you freaking hate fantasy football as much as you love it. My mental health, every year, it struggles. And it struggles because of fantasy football. Because you do all the research, you have everything pinpointed, everything is laid out exactly how it should go on Sundays. And then it doesn't, and then you get screwed. But I'm gonna try to help you this year to not get screwed, okay? I'm just taking away, I just took down some notes of some of the things that I've seen this year in drafts and just kind of my 2 cents on things. I am in no way like a fantasy football expert, I wouldn't say that, but I've got a lot of experience. I probably have more than your average just person, your average Joe. Maybe you're an average fantasy football player. But if you don't like what I've said, if you disagree with some of my takes, let me know. That's all right. That's all right. Don't forget, please subscribe to the channel. Get entered in to win our LaDainian Tomlinson signed trading card. Subscribe, leave a comment. All that helps. You guys are awesome. First, so here's how I'm going to lay this out. I'm going to give you, at each position, I'm going to give you 2 guys that I really like, generally based off their draft value and like situations that they're in. I'll try to give you 1 or 2 guys that I would stay away from, and it's just kind of loosey-goosey. We're just going to go from there and see how it feels. See what we like and see what we don't like. First, let's start with the quarterbacks. My general rule of thumb with quarterbacks is I am a classic, like, put it off as long as you can kind of guy. I'm not high on spending early draft capital on a quarterback just because you can find such good value so late. I'm not saying anything new there, but how I view the quarterback position is my fantasy floor each week. Like, they're kind of the tone setter as far as like my floor. The weeks where like I feel like, oh, going into this matchup, I'm projected to win. I like my guys more than their guys. And then I end up losing. Like, what the heck happened? Is usually because my quarterback had a dud that week and scored less than 10 points, something like that. I generally find it that way. I just want to see them to build me a foundation of 15 to 20 points, and any more than that, if I've drafted well, that's all I really need from them is 15 to 20 points in that range. And if I get more than that, then great. So my first guy that I really like this year is Kyler Murray. Now, remember, like in fantasy, you don't have to be high on the team to get a lot of fantasy value out of them or fantasy production. So I'm not very high on the Cardinals, but that kind of helps. Kyler Murray is going to be forced to throw the ball a lot. They're not going to be handing the ball a ton, handing it off a ton late in games. Because they're not going to be winning late in games very often. So I like that Kyler, again, is going to be forced into playing catch-up mode. He only played 8 games last year after the ACL surgery. And what we've seen recently in the last like 5 to 10 years is guys come back from these lower body injuries, like an ACL or an ankle or a broken leg, whatever. And they play that next year like Kyler did, but they're not really fully back to themselves until the following year. So yes, they're playing, they might not have pain, but that explosiveness and that strength that comes with, that you have to like recover from hasn't fully been recovered or brought back or developed again until that second year. So that's what I'm looking at with Kyler Murray. Only played 8 games, wasn't terrible. They've got some good things cooking in Arizona, and they're adding the Marvin Harrison Jr. piece to this. He has amazing chemistry with Trey McBride, the tight end who was coming along strong last year. I think you're going to see a more explosive Kyler. You're going to see a Kyler who is more comfortable in that offense. He's going to be more comfortable because he's got Marvin Harrison Jr. Trey McBride was only was he a rookie last year? Wow, I should have looked that up. I feel like he was a second year guy last year. Regardless, someone fact check me, Josh, right now. Look at me right now, Josh. Put up Was he a rookie last year, second year? Tell me what year. Right there. Bam. Tell me. Okay, now you guys know. Josh fixed it for me like he always does. Josh is the man. But I love Kyler because I got him in the 10th round in my home league draft this year. I picked him in the 10th round, which is just, it's a freaking steal, man. Freaking steal. He has top 5 upside. Like if he's going to be running around, rushing touchdowns, top 5 upside, like fantastic. So we'll see. But I'm really high on Kyler Murray, especially if you can get him that late. My second guy is a guy that I'm high on every year, and it's Kirk Cousins. And why am I so high on Kirk Cousins? Well, every year, this year included, I picked him up on the waivers right after the draft was over. He was free. He was essentially free. I had to drop whoever my last round pick was, but I picked him up for free. And Kirk Cousins, guys, like, this is what I'm talking about. I'm just looking for floor guys. Like there's a scenario where you could start Kirk Cousins all year and he's going to give you 15 to 20 points consistently. And every now and then he's going to have a game where he pushes that 30-point mark simply because he's just like a very good quarterback that you didn't have to spend any draft capital on. Okay. So because you didn't have to draft him, or you used your last pick or second to last pick on him, that means the rest of your team has so much upside that you just need Kirk to have 15 to 20 points a game, which is very realistic. Also, like, look at who he's playing with. Yes, before he was thrown to Justin Jefferson, and he was great, and he was basically free, and he was thrown to Justin Jefferson. You got really good production out of Kirk. But look at his team now. He's went to a team in Atlanta that has Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson to throw to, Tyler Algier, who's like not going to catch the ball very much, but moves that offense along. And he's basically playing in the Rams' old offense, so the Sean McVay offense is being brought to Atlanta. I'm very high on Kirk simply for the fact he's basically free. Now, his Achilles is somewhat of a worry, but Kirk's not a runner, guys. Like, Kirk is not super mobile. He's not even like super mobile in the pocket necessarily. That's not what he's known for. So, like, to me, the Kirk Cousins situation is different than the Aaron Rodgers situation because Rodgers is known for being mobile in the pocket, and Kirk just not really his thing. I mean, he's okay in the pocket, but you get what I'm saying. His game is not predicated on how explosive he is. So I'm thinking that he's going to be all right. That's my thought on it. And guess what? He's free. So even if he's not that good, then fine. Go pick up someone else like a Matthew Stafford who's probably free out there. There's guys out there. Some leagues, I think Brock Purdy's probably getting more respect now. But Brock Purdy's not being drafted before this time either. So there's going to be guys out there that you can take a flyer on. But I like Kirk. If he's healthy, this is a steal. It's a steal because he's got top 10 upside, maybe top 12 upside, top 10 upside for sure. Maybe he's in that 12 to 15 range. But he's going to consistently give you 15 to 20 points a game. And again, if you've drafted well enough before that, that's all you need. As I said before, I tend to stay away from early round quarterbacks. Maybe Josh Allen in a 3rd or 4th round, depending on how your league drafts. I don't know. But I've been burned on that so many times. Like Patrick Mahomes went not second overall, in the 2nd round in my home league draft. And man, I just wouldn't do that kind of thing, guys. That's numbers to studies, the science. Okay, we're talking science on this YouTube channel today shows that you're just better off waiting and just use your draft capital elsewhere. Wide receivers. This is my second position. Okay, wide receivers. My first one that I love, and when I say love, I love this guy and what he's in right now, and that's Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry. Okay, he's had a couple frustrating but sneaky good years. In his rookie season, he looked like he was going to be all pro. He was projected to just be to the moon, like top 5 upside. And of course it hasn't panned out that way because he's been playing in Washington. It has been a train wreck of a situation. Ron Rivera can't establish a culture. They have no idea what they're going through, no idea what they're doing. They're changing offensive coordinators. The line can't protect anybody. I'm higher on Sam Howell than most people, but Sam Howell still isn't probably a franchise quarterback. And he still has amassed 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons with that, averaging his floors like 75 catches in the situation he was just in. And the good news is his situation has improved, everybody, okay? I'm not saying Dan Quinn is like the best head coach ever, but I would take Dan Quinn over Ron Rivera, okay? Cliff Kingsbury, okay, is an essential piece to this. Cliff Kingsbury is not a great head coach. As an offensive coordinator, he doesn't even adjust well. That's why you look at every Cliff Kingsbury head coaching season, he starts off really hot, and then the second half of the season, he just like doesn't make adjustments, and teams catch up, and then they really tail off. Look at him with the Cardinals. But what I'll say is, statistically, his offenses are pretty good. They're really good, and they play fast. They play really fast. You're going to get a ton of plays in. More plays equals more opportunities for Terry McLaurin. They just traded away Jahan Dotson. Like, who is Jaden Daniels, who I'm very high on. Okay, very high on as an improvement from Sam Howell. And the early returns look really good. Like, he looks like he knows what he's doing. So that's great. Like, all things are pointing up for Terry McLaurin. Who is he going to throw to? He's just pretty slim pickings right now in Washington. Terry McLaurin's the guy, okay? Terry McLaurin's the guy. I think that he has top 10 upside, and right now I'm just looking, I mean, depends on what website you're looking at. I use Fantasy Pros and Sleeper a lot. What did I put in my notes here? You're getting him, he's being drafted. So he's currently on some of these different platforms. I have him as, he's being drafted as like wide receiver 33. You can get him in the 6th or 7th round, and guys, his situation outperforms that. Like, he's going to be a very good receiver with top 10 upside. Those are the kind of moves. You get him in the 6th or 7th round after you've already drafted a CeeDee Lamb or a Garrett Wilson or one of these guys, Tyreek Hill, and then all of a sudden, like, Terry McLaurin is a top 10 receiver as well. Like, those are the kind of moves that just put you into the next stratosphere and you dominate your league. Okay, I think that's the kind of season McLaurin's going to have. Number two is the similar situation kind of guy. If you didn't notice, I'm trying to stay away from, like, I could come on here and tell you, yes, pick Tyreek Hill. Oh, sick, bro. Really cool. Like, I'm trying to stay away from that. Of course, the other guys I like more. I'm just kind of looking at these value picks that, like, really put you over the hump in fantasy. Okay, my other one, same situation as Terry McLaurin, is Courtland Sutton. Guys, Courtland Sutton could explode this year. Here's why, okay? He's being drafted as, like, again, on Fantasy Pros, I'm looking at Sleeper. It's in this range, even if you use a different website. He's being drafted as like wide receiver 47 in PPR leagues. I play PPR. That's kind of my thing. So it might be different. I imagine it's worse if he's playing in like a standard league, whatever. Wide receiver 47. Guys, he's the number one target on the Denver Broncos offense, kind of like Terry McLaurin. They trade away Jerry Jeudy, okay? They are about to trade away Tim Patrick. By the time you watch this, maybe they've traded him. Okay, those are the rumors. Okay, that he's going to be gone. Who is he throwing to? Who are they throwing to? Also, the other side of this is Bo Nix. Okay, he's a rookie, very early returns, but he looks comfortable. He looks like he can play within the system. Okay, and who is he going to throw to? And you've got Sean Payton. Sean Payton knows who his weapons are. Sean Payton knows who his guys are. Courtland Sutton is going to be his guy. Okay, they're going to find ways to get Courtland Sutton the ball. And you're investing like nothing in him. Okay, super low draft capital going as like he's getting in, you can get him in like the 10th round or later, depending on your league. So he could end up being, I'm not saying he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver. I don't think that's off the table. That depends on Bo Nix. He's a rookie quarterback, so he's probably not a top 10 receiver, but you get him as wide receiver 47, and he could end up being a top 20 guy. Like, I would expect him to be a top 20 guy, I think. Maybe that's bold, but man, who else are they throwing to? And he's a good receiver. He hasn't had 1,000 yards in a little bit, okay? But I think if Bo Nix looks how he has, a combination with Sean Payton, not just like hating Russell Wilson, and now he has a quarterback that he believes in, like 80 catches and 1,000 to 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, like that's a very possible, like I would almost put money on he's going to have that kind of season, just given the situation. The Broncos are not going to be leading in games. They're going to have some garbage time games where Courtland Sutton, they're going to play off and Courtland Sutton's going to be open. There's going to be a lot of games where they're trying to come back. I just like the situation for Courtland Sutton. I think he's a very underrated receiver that's just been buried in Denver, and everyone was hyped up about Jerry Jeudy, and Russell Wilson was the quarterback, and then Trevor Siemian was the quarterback. Like, give me a break, guys. Give me a break. That was a while ago, Trevor Siemian. Whatever. The point is Courtland Sutton's in a good spot. And he's going to be good. And guess what? You can get him in like the 10th round, okay? That's a great pick, okay? Some of the guys I would stay away from, mostly based off draft position, okay? Marvin Harrison Jr. Love him to death. He's going to be great. I think he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver in this league at some point. Might not be year 1, and that's what we're talking about. Guys, he's going in like the 2nd round. Marvin Harrison Jr. went like beginning of the second round in my home league draft, and there's just no way you're going to feel good about that. He essentially has to finish, if he goes early second round, he's got to finish at wide receiver 5 this year, and I don't know if I see that happening, okay? Like, you're not going to be happy with how it finishes based on where you're drafting him. I know I'm really high on Kyler Murray, but a lot of that's to do with Kyler's upside in running, and I don't know. It just feels too rich for my blood. If he was going in the 4th round, like, yeah, I'd be way more into it. That's too early for me. My other one, like, might surprise you a little bit. Puka Nacua, and it's not because I think he's going to be bad, but it's hard to see him matching what he did last season. Last season, you had Cooper Kupp down for the first couple of games. Was it 4 games? At least it was a couple. Cooper Kupp was down, and he had a hamstring thing, and you guys know, if you follow this, you know hamstrings linger. They do not go away easy. And so I don't think he was ever fully healthy. And I think you're going to see Cooper Kupp fully healthy, kind of reinstated into the offense. I don't think you'll get Cooper Kupp what he was at his peak, but I think he's going to take away from Puka, because that makes the Rams offense better. Okay, the best Rams offense situation is not force feed the ball to Puka 100 million times a game. It's, hey, let's balance this out. And what's best for the offense is not always best what's best for fantasy. On top of that, like, Puka has been banged up this training camp a little bit. So I just think you're going to see a regression there. I think you're going to see Puka, who's being drafted in like the 2nd round. I think I have a hard time seeing him live up to that. If you have to pick, like, I would say take Cooper Kupp I think he's going in like the 4th round. Like, that is a more enticing pick to me than Puka. Simply because of the draft position. I think they're going to balance each other out, and they're both going to be like this 1B kind of receiver. Okay, instead of like, oh man, I have a lock top 10 guy every week, and you're going to see a guy like both guys finish in the wide receiver 10 to 15 range every week, and like you're happy. But if you took Puka early in the 2nd round, you're going to be like, man, I could have taken Garrett Wilson, who I'm crazy high on. He has wide receiver 1 upside, depending on how Rodgers looks throughout the year. But you could have taken Garrett Wilson in that same range and got way higher upside. That's another little drop. I didn't do a whole thing on him, but Garrett Wilson, guys, target him if you can. If you're getting Garrett Wilson in the 2nd round, take him. Like, absolutely smash the draft button on Garrett Wilson. Okay, we're moving on to running backs. I'm trying to hurry, guys. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm on my lunch break, by the way, so I gotta hurry it up. Yeah, we gotta hurry it up here. Okay, my running backs. I'm gonna try to zag here a little bit from a lot of what I've seen from people, and I gotta thank my boy Stockton Hyatt. Shout out, what up, Stockton? SVU. He's the only Texans fan that I know, and he was a Texans fan like before CJ Stroud got there, even before Deshaun Watson got there. Stockton, right? Before Deshaun got there, you hit me up. Let me know when your fandom really started, because you're not from Texas, you're from Utah, so kind of random. But I'm going to go Joe Mixon. And I think a lot of people are down on Joe Mixon because his efficiency numbers haven't been great. He got a lot of volume in Cincinnati, and that like drove a lot of his production. But here's what I'm going to say about Joe Mixon. He's currently going like 3rd or 4th round, and he's got RB1 upside, not overall RB1, but like top 10 upside. And I think he's being drafted outside of that. He finishes the RB6 last year in PPR leagues, according to Fantasy Pros. And now he's in Houston. And this is why. It's the situation, guys. I love Joe Mixon. If you don't want to start with a running back in your first 2 rounds, like, he's a great option because he's in Houston now in that offense that they're not going to be able to stack boxes. Okay, you're going to have to play a lot of 2 high safeties against Houston and CJ Stroud. Okay, and when you see 2 high safeties, like, man, that's the recipe. Let's hand it off. Okay, you're going to see a lot of that because CJ Stroud has Nico Collins, he's got Tank Dell, he's got Stephon Diggs. Like, they're going to have to play back, light boxes. Okay, and on top of that, you got Bobby Slowick, who is from the Shanahan tree of run the dang ball success. Okay, he knows how to unlock RB potential. They are going to be able to set up play action. Like, they are incentivized. That offense runs. The times where the 49ers last year struggled was when they could not get the run game going, which isn't very often, but every now and then they can't get the run game going, which really hurts the pass game. And I think Houston is kind of looking at it that way. That's why they went out and got Joe Mixon. They paid money. They paid guaranteed money. I think he's making like $8 million this year, which in running back terms is not nothing. Okay, $8 million is like, oh, okay, like this is enough. They didn't pay him $2 million or $3 million. $8 million is enough to say, okay, we invested in this guy. We're going to give him the rock. Okay, we're going to give him the rock. And they're going to use it to set up play action. They're going to use it to, I think, to take some pressure off C.J. Stroud, who at times last year they felt like it was all on him. And I'm really high on C.J. Stroud. But of course, if you can set up play action better, like it's only going to elevate his game and just take some pressure off him at the same time. So I love Joe Mixon. I think a great strategy this year is, hey, I'm going to go wide receiver in the first round, whether that's whoever, one of the top guys, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. Love CeeDee, by the way. That's another one. Now that he's signed, he didn't miss any. I mean, he missed training camp, but he's got a couple weeks to get ready for week one. Him and Dak are on great chemistry. Like, he's a good one. But if you could go CeeDee Lamb early, Tyreek Hill early, Garrett Wilson early. I mean, you can get him in the second round most of the time, maybe into first now with the weird Jefferson stuff. But you could go wide receiver, get two freaking dogs at wide receiver, two guys that should be finish in the top 10, and then you could take Joe Mixon in the third or fourth round, and he could end up being an RB, top 10 RB. Like, that's a great way to build your fantasy team. It's a great way to do it. So I'm high on Joe Mixon. Do I have Joe Mixon in multiple leagues? Yeah, guys, of course I do. Of course I do. So of course I'm biased. Don't look at me that way, okay? Stockton, you tell the people. You freaking tell the people, okay? Tell them the truth. Now, guys, this second one I feel less good about. It feels a little gross. I feel a little disgusted by myself. I feel like I need to take a shower because I'm about to say this name. But it's look at it logically, not terrible, okay? Tony Pollard. Now, do I think Tony Pollard is a top 10 running back fantasy-wise? Probably not. Most likely not. But he is going so late that you could take him. You could put him as your RB2, like not your guy you're dependent on, but like your RB2, or even a flex option with how late he's going. You could throw him in the flex, and he's going to have a couple of weeks. He'll have a couple of weeks where I think he finishes RB10 or better. He's not going to do that consistently, but a couple of weeks, you're going to be like, oh man, I beat this team that I wasn't supposed to beat. How did I do that? Oh, because Tony Pollard got me 25 points because he scored 2 touchdowns. Like, that's the kind of season you're going to see with Tony Pollard, and you'll love having him in your flex. Here's why, okay? It was crazy. Like, everyone was so high on Tony Pollard last year, but completely omitting the fact that he broke his leg in 2022 season, but it was January of 2023 against the 49ers in that playoff game. And then he came back and just all of a sudden became the workhorse, and we just didn't care that he broke his ankle, broke his leg, and we just expected him to be like an all-time fantasy great, like with how his hype train got out of control, and I was on it. I thought he was going to be amazing in that offense, and then he just wasn't. Now, it's preseason, but what you're seeing in preseason from Tony Pollard is like an explosiveness you haven't seen since 2022 when he had that great season. I think the early signs show that, yes, they're going to split time, Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, but I think Tony Pollard is going to get the nod to be the first guy. I think that early on it might be a 50-50, 60-40 split, and I think slowly you'll see that turn into like a 65, maybe even 70 range towards Tony Pollard, because I just think he's a really good running back. I think he also is crazy determined to prove that he's a freaking stud still, given how last year went when Dallas. He wants to prove everybody wrong. And the best thing about Tony Pollard, okay, he's going in like the 10th round. I'm trying to look at my notes. How did I not write that down? If I remember right, he went like 10th round. It was crazy. He was so far down the board, and people are worried about the Tyjae Spears thing, and like I get it, but like take him, put him in your flex. He's got a lot of upside. Also, I think Tennessee's offense is going to be better than people give it credit for. I think. And that's because I think Will Levis is better than people think. No, I'm not saying he's necessarily a franchise guy, though he could be. I think he could be what Ryan Tannehill was, like with higher upside, better arm. Like, anyway, so I'm just saying, like, I think that offense is going to be a little better. I think Tony Pollard's going to catch a ton of passes from Will Levis, and I just like him. I think if I can get him in the 10th round or later, and throw him in as my flex and slowly see like, oh, Tony Pollard again, 15 points. Like I love that for my flex. So I like it. I feel gross. I'm probably gonna have to shower after the episode just because that's a gross name to say right now and take anybody from that Tennessee offense. But I like it. I like it. There's not a ton of late round running backs that you can feel good about, but I think he's one of them. Lastly, just like as a handcuff, guys, Jordan Mason for the 49ers, he's free. He's on your waiver wire somewhere unless the CMC holder in your league already has him as a handcuff. Jordan Mason's going to be RB2. And if CMC is out, like he already has a calf strain, I'm sure he's going to play week 1. He's already said he would play week 1 if that game was today. But you just never know. And Jordan Mason, all it takes is one Jordan Mason start. One game CMC is out, you plug in Jordan Mason, and he's going to be 20 points or more. Like Jordan Mason looks fantastic. He looks really good. So anyway, that's my my little plug for him. Okay, go pick up Jordan Mason if you can. Find a spot, throw him on your roster because it'll be worth it that 1 week he plays. Guys, I'm out on. Couple guys, okay? First, let's start with Jonathan Taylor, okay? Jonathan Taylor wasn't great last year. He held out for a little bit, then got in camp, then he was hurt. Wasn't great. He's only another year older. Injury history, like what's he going to be? I don't know. Also, the Anthony Richardson side of this, like makes me a little nervous. Is he gonna snake touchdowns near the goal line, a lot like Jalen Hurts does? We'll talk about Saquon here next. He's my second other guy. Could be that kind of situation. He's not going first round, Jonathan Taylor, not really. I think I've seen him end of second, sometimes early third. Like, I don't know. I just think there's other guys. Like I would rather have Joe Mixon in the 4th round or 3rd round than Jonathan Taylor in the 2nd. That's how I see it. Not sure what he is. And the Anthony Richardson side of it makes me a little nervous. So I'd stay away from him. Unless he drops. If he drops that 4th round, then great. Go ahead and take him. But if he's looking at that 2nd round, guys, I don't know. I would go wide receiver in the 2nd round. And it's a passing league, especially if you're playing in PPR. Yeah, like push him down the board. Saquon. Now, here's the thing. I think Saquon is either going to be like RB1 or he's going to end up like RB10. And where you have to draft him, like he's going off a lot of boards as like the RB4, 5. And I don't know, it's tough. I drafted him as the RB4 in my league, and I actually just traded him away for CeeDee Lamb. I gave up whatever, you want to evaluate my trades. I gave up Saquon and Deebo Samuel for CeeDee Lamb. And here's my thing about Saquon. He realistically, I think, could end up being the RB1. That would probably mean CMC didn't play all 17 games or whatever, but that's the kind of upside he has. I think he's been buried under this terrible Giants offense and Daniel Jones and that train wreck of what's going on out there. But what I'm nervous about, and I don't think I took into enough consideration when I drafted him in the 1st round, at the end of the 1st round, was the Jalen Hurts tush-push factor on this. Now, I'm of the belief that they're going to start to go away from that in Philly to a degree. Not that you won't see it at all, but like last year they would get on the 1, and if like 1st and 2nd down, sometimes they were running the tush push. And I think they're going to get away from it for a couple reasons. 1, Kelsey's retired, and he's the heart of that tush push. 2, Jalen was banged up, and the tush push does not help him with that. Okay, Jalen played worse. He was less mobile because he was just banged up, and I think they're going to want to stop that a little bit to a degree. They also paid Saquon all this money. He's like the 2nd highest paid running back now after CMC. And what are you doing if you're going to get inside the 5 and you're not going to give it to your running back that you paid all this money for? Regardless, like that worries me. Having to draft him as RB4. But he's got this like Jalen Hurts element who had like 12 rushing touchdowns last year because of the tush push. Those are 12 touchdowns not going to Saquon. That's what's going to be the deciding factor. Okay, really, it's just the tush push. Is Saquon going to have 12 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns, or is he going to have 6 because of the tush push? And that's where I get nervous. And if you have to draft Saquon in the 1st round, like I think I would stay away from that. If you can get him later 2nd round, like then I'm higher on it. I just think there's so many good receivers still through the first part of the 2nd round. It just depends where you're drafting, where you can get him. But that's my one caveat. So it's not like he's off my draft board, but like he's got to fall a little bit before I really feel good. I drafted him, and then I was like, okay, he could be this, but I found a deal for CD, and I feel like CD is an automatic in that offense. But Actually, it was Josh who I traded him to. Josh, you might clean up. If Saquon ends up RB1, then you cleaned up on that trade because Debo's also going to have a good year with this whole Ayuk thing. Okay, lastly, man, I'm pushing long, guys. I'm pushing long. I got to be quick. Tight ends, okay? Let's talk real quick tight ends. Trey McBride. Big on Trey McBride. He finished as tight end 10 last year, but man, you guys know, if you were a Trey McBride owner like myself, you knew the second half of the season, you were like, oh my gosh, he is just a target machine. He was averaging like 12 targets a game down the stretch. He multiple games with like 9 or 10 receptions. And if you play in a PPR like I do, that's huge. That's huge. Great chemistry with Kyler. If you can have a Kyler Trey McBride stack, do it. That's a heck of a situation to be in. Now he's being drafted as like the tight end 4. But he's got tight end 1 upside. And the tight end position, you guys know, is like weird. There's like tight ends 1, 2, and 3, maybe 4-ish, like finish really high, and then there's like a huge tier break after that. So tight end 4 is kind of right around that tier break. He's being drafted there, and I think he's in that top tier, 1, 2, or 3 guys, easy. You can get him in like the 4th or 5th round. Like depends on how your draft went, how you set up your team going at the beginning, but I think he's a great pick if you can get him there. Number 2, the second guy, okay, is George Kittle. Okay, he's being drafted as like tight end 6, okay, in that tier break in like the 5th round. He finishes the tight end 2 last year, and I think the knock on George Kittle is he's really boomer bust. And you see it if you watch 49er games, like he's either heavily involved in the game plan and he's going to get you 20 plus points, or he's not and he gets you like 2 catches and that's it. My argument for Kittle this year, outside of he's being drafted as tight end 6 in like the 5th round or later, is no, that if Ayuk is being traded and I am on, what is the date today? August, gosh, I don't have my watch on me. August 27th is when I'm recording this. Ayuk on August 27th, I think is getting traded. I think he's getting traded today before roster cuts. I could be wrong. But I think this whole Trent Williams thing is becoming more serious, and I think they're just going to say, screw it. We can't lose Trent. We'll figure this thing out with Ayuk. We drafted a couple wide receivers we feel real good about. Sure, it makes us worse, but like we've got to have Trent. And I think that's going to happen. And I think the person that benefits the most with Ayuk being gone is George Kittle. Okay, he attacks the middle of the field. He can be a down the field kind of guy, not like a 40-yard just go route, but he's like an over route kind of guy, a lot of yak. I think you're going to see George Kittle much more heavily involved without Brandon Ayuk. He benefits even more than Deebo Samuel, who plays more around the line of scrimmage. That's what I think. So I think Kittle is primed for a huge year. He was tight end 2 last year. Even if that boomer bust thing might piss you off, like I think there'll be less of that this year, but he still finishes tight end 2. Like he's going to win you weeks. Had a 3-touchdown game against Dallas. Like he's going to win you some weeks. And so don't be scared of him because he's going to have a great year. Now he gets banged up from time to time. He might miss some games, but it's never like super long. It might be a game or 2 because he's just so physical in the run game and when he has the ball in his hands. But don't be scared of George Kittle, especially where he's getting drafted. Hammer that draft button if he's there because he's going to be great. Okay. Honorable mention would be Jake Ferguson. I don't have a bunch of notes on Jake Ferguson in front of me, but Jake Ferguson for Dallas, they've got CeeDee Lamb. The run game isn't going to be great. Brandon Cooks is still there, but man, Jake Ferguson is going to be a very good option in fantasy. They're going to throw the ball a ton. Jake Ferguson is going to be matched up on linebackers. They're not going to game plan against Jake Ferguson super hard because he's not like a big play potential like guy like some of these other dudes like a Kittle or a Laporta or a Kelsey, but like he's gonna get his around in the red zone. He's gonna catch the ball because they're lacking a really good number 2. I like Brandon Cooks, but is another year older. So Jake Ferguson for Dallas is an honorable mention. Lastly, I'm staying away from Travis Kelce because in a lot of leagues he's being drafted as the number 1 tight end. He finished as tight end 3 last year. Guys, like you saw some of the signs of decline. He had a great playoffs last year, but you're seeing signs of decline from Travis Kelce. Okay, Chiefs fans, you don't want to hear that. He's still going to be a good player, but the Travis Kelce have to draft him in the 2nd round, even 1st round, number 1 automatic tight end. Like those days, in my opinion, are over. Okay, I think he's going to take another step backwards. He'll probably finish in the top 5 as tight ends, but don't draft him as the first tight end off the board. Do not do that. He didn't do it. He didn't finish it last year. He's only a year older. I have a lot of opinions on it. Don't do it. Okay, don't do it. That's what I got. Lastly, guys, kickers, defenses, stream them. I don't offer a ton of info on defenses. Look at the defenses, find the defenses that are playing rookie quarterbacks and pick them up for that week. That's what I try to do. If you've got like the Browns defense is going to be really good. Steelers defense historically is going to be good. Ravens probably still be a pretty good defense even though they lost their defense coordinator. But I don't look at defenses as plug and play and leave them the whole time. Okay, I look at defenses as who is playing a rookie quarterback, and I just stream those guys. Okay, that's what I do. Kickers, same thing. If you have a kicker and you want to plug them in, great, just fine. I'm not going to offer a lot of kickers, guys. Anyway, that's what I got for you. Hope you agree. Sorry that video went a little longer. Hope you liked it. I got to get back to work. Lunch break is over. The boss man's going to be breathing down my neck. But listen, guys, subscribe, guys. Please, subscribe does so much for my channel. The algorithm gets it out in front of eyes. That would be awesome. We got some good things coming up. I think we're gonna hit a live show pretty soon. I don't know, just to try it, see if you guys want to hang out with me. I think I'm a cool dude to hang out with, and I promise you, if we do a live show next week, previewing week 1, I promise I will read every comment that's posted and whatever. We're just gonna try something new, I think. Also have NFL playoff predictions coming your way, maybe later this week. We'll see. Stay tuned. But if you hit that subscribe button, you'll be notified. Even if you're like, I'm pretty lukewarm on this guy. Guys, subscribing is free. You hit that subscribe button, maybe 3 or 4 weeks down the road, you're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of into the NFL more this year than I've been, and I want some inside info. I'm your man. Okay, you guys are awesome. That's all I got for you. I'm out.